Press play.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Press Play Podcast. My name is Rob, and I'm joined by my co-host, Michael. Michael, how are you doing today?
Not too shabby, Robert. A pleasure to be back in the driver's seat with you. It's been a minute. I feel like we've been in a coma state for a little while here.
It has been a minute
Good to be back.
Yes. It's the last episode that we did was in February, and then what's funny is that I mentally told myself, and I never told anybody else I do podcasts with. I was like, I'm going to take the month of March off. Didn't tell anybody, because not only were you the only person, you were the only person that texted me that was like, "Hey, yo, are we doing something?" Nobody in like my video game podcast asked me anything. It was
I'm
just
actually
like
surprised. Wow.
They just did with it, and so it wasn't until you messaged me I was like, "Oh, dude, I guess I forgot to tell everybody that I was." Just because that month there was like so many games that was coming out, and work was also getting a little busy, so I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna focus on life right now, and then put things aside for a second. And so then after March happened, we're like, okay, let's try to aim for April. And then April came around. April didn't work out. So here we are in May, better late than never, honestly. And we have a lot to talk about. We have a whole lot of things to talk about. So.
We've got some catching up to do. That's what it sounds like.
We do. And before we get into what we've been watching, I want to go through the intro. Welcome to the Press Play Podcast. We talk about all things movies and other topics about that on this digital table. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or corrections, you can send them our way on Twitter at Ambitious Casual. Or if you're watching it on YouTube, you can leave them in the comments and press the like button and subscribe. Without further ado, let's get right into the show. This episode is going to be different than the others. We talk about what we've been watching, and then we have the main topic of breaking down a movie. That's different today. We're practically just going to be talking about everything we've been watching for the past couple months, and kind of, give our piece on what we thought about it. We don't have to spend too long on it if we don't want to. But there was a lot. I mean, we're looking at this list. Yours and my list crossed over is a lot, but there's a good amount of things that have come out within the past couple months that is worth talking about. But before, actually, you know what? I'm gonna cut in right now before we even go any further, because Michael, we forgot to even talk about something on the last podcast that I think Vanessa made a point to me. She's like, "Hey, did y'all talk about this?" I was like,
"Ooh, Vanessa called us out on it."
Yeah, I was like, I totally forgot to even bring it up. We didn't even think about talking about the Oscars. Like, we didn't even make predictions. We didn't make predictions about who was going to probably win, who was nominated. We didn't do any of that. And so there's no point in doing any of that. Yeah, exactly. It was a complete missed opportunity because it would have been fun. But even though we didn't do that, the Oscars have already happened, obviously. And some very interesting things have happened at the Oscars. And so, Michael, I'm going to throw it over to you. I've been talking for like 2 minutes straight now. I just want to know, from your perspective, what did you think of the Oscars? I don't know if you saw it. I don't know if you...
I did.
Let me know. Oh, you did? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Let me know what your thoughts were on the Oscars. And, just pure base. 2022 Oscars. What are your thoughts on it? Go.
Definitely a lot of Dune. I think we can both agree on that. I think Dune basically just swept the floor with everything in terms of like a lot of the categories. I believe, was it Coda that won Best Picture?
Surprisingly.
I actually have not seen it, so I couldn't really say anything about it. I think you have, Robert, if I'm not mistaken.
Great
so
movie.
You might be able to talk a little bit more about that. But obviously, in regards to the Oscars, everybody's been more in focus with the controversies that kind of erupted. In which, yeah, I know, right? What is he talking about? And I mean, we're in May, right? So there's probably not a whole lot new I can probably bring into that. But I just think that as a whole, I think we really need to change like how we do the Oscars, I guess, or how it's kind of processed. Because I mean, I feel like in the last couple of years they've been getting shorter and shorter. I don't know if you feel the same way, but I feel like when I watched the Oscars, like maybe 4 or 5 years ago, it was really drawn out. It's kind of like, I don't know, maybe it's not such a bad thing because, end of the day, it happens once a year. It's very theatrical, very, very in stride with what the Oscars are. Now it's kind of like watching like a TikTok almost, like, they like just burn through these categories so quickly.
Definitely.
2-minute acceptance speeches, all that. Um, in regards to the Will Smith stuff, I mean, what hasn't been said about that already?
Definitely.
I think honestly, I was, you know, my whole thing with like jokes and like type of jokes, like kind of what Chris Rock was saying. I think the good rule of thumb is I always try to tell people this. I think when it's like something someone chooses, like let's say Robert, you came into this podcast wearing a unicorn shirt, I might put you on blast because that's kind of funny. You know what I mean? I might make some jokes about that. But the situation being that his wife is suffering from an illness that she didn't get to choose to have, right? Having alopecia, it's kind of a sensitive issue, right? And I mean, Jada Pinkett Smith, we could talk all day and night about what kind of person she is. I don't think she's the greatest person ever. Honestly, in my opinion, I don't know her personally like that, but just from the things I've heard and seen, like from my narrow scope of that, I can't really say that I really like her as a person. But I don't think anybody deserves to be put on blast like that in front of like millions of people across the country.
Mm-hmm.
Does that is that to say that Will was in the right to go and physically assault someone? No, I definitely don't think that. I think it sends the wrong message to everybody. That whenever you don't like something, you can just violently, have a reaction or outcome to that situation. I think
Definitely.
honestly, even if they talked about it, after the fact, even if he slapped them like like not in front of the cameras, after the fact, I think that still might have been a little bit more acceptable than just brazenly.
Definitely.
I thought it was
Exactly.
scripted. I honestly thought it was scripted, dude. I
We
was like,
all
I didn't
did.
even believe that was real. And then they cut the audio, and I was like, oh boy.
Yeah.
So for those at home that don't know that, whenever the audio just goes like that, it's usually because the sensors have about a 5 to 10 second delay. So everything you're watching is within a 5 to 10 second delay. So the sensors are hearing it first, so they censor it before you get a chance to see it. This started back more so during the Janet Jackson, Justin Timberlake
Oh yeah.
Super Bowl. So they started adding those delays in there to kind of prevent those situations from happening. So I knew something was up as soon as I heard the audio cut out. I was like, oh boy. And then like not even an hour later, Twitter was blowing it up. So
Definitely.
um he's got reprimanded. I think he's banned from the Oscars for 10 years. I
Yep.
mean, I don't know, man. I think in some ways it's a little excessive. It's hard to say if that's really justifiable, but I'm curious to hear what you think. Do you think that was severe enough, or do you think that they were pretty soft on him in terms of the ban? What do you think?
It's difficult because I like, just like you, Vanessa and I were watching it, and when it got to that point, you I was laughing the entire time. I'm just gonna be completely honest. I'm not gonna try to act like, I'm not gonna be fake. I thought the joke, in all seriousness, I thought it was funny.
I did
Um,
laugh. I did laugh.
it,
Don't get me wrong. I don't want to sound like I'm on a high horse either. I definitely thought I was funny. I'm definitely out of pocket, but it was
I
very
thought it
true.
was
But I was funny.
definitely. I thought it was funny. I mean, Will Smith laughed. He thought it was
He did.
funny. And so, and that's the thing with it, is the fact that I thought the joke was funny. Um, even if I knew that she had alopecia, I would have still thought it was funny, just because of the fact that I'm like, look, these are all super super rich people out there that have the ability, that they're on a whole nother pedestal that I would never be able to fathom. And that I just think, these are rich people giving jabs to rich people. And I'm like, you know what? Honestly, at the end of the day, it's all funny. And it was Chris Rock who said it. Like, that doesn't surprise me that he would say it.
Oh,
It's almost like
100%.
Ricky Gervais' famous like monologue that he gave that one time at the Oscars, who knows how many years ago, completely just calling every single actor out. That was his last time ever hosting, but it was an amazing monologue because he was telling the truth over and over and over again. But anyways, um, you know, just like when you see Will Smith go up there, slap him, I was laughing the whole time too. I was like, yo, this is like, they're really playing this up. This is funny. And then, like you said, it wasn't until there was the cut. And then you could see the camera was like cutting between, like, it's almost like on the American side, it was stuttering between who to put the camera on.
Right, they're trying to
And
figure it out.
exactly. And so when the moment that it showed a very serious looking face on Will Smith, I'm not kidding, my heart sank, because it was almost as if I saw like a family member just do something completely embarrassing online,
Oh,
and the entire
100%.
family, like everybody saw it. And so, was his actions justified? I think where he's coming emotionally, like I think Will Smith has been the brunt of the joke for the longest time,
Oh,
especially
100%.
because of their relationship, you know. And
He's
this is
a man on a wire, man. He's very. You
definitely
could definitely see the amount of stress, like he was just
yes,
emphasizing there. So
yes. Thank you for thank you. That's what like exactly. You can see he has so much weight on him, and you know this is not a show that we're gonna just go and get into like the tabloids or whatever. But you
the
know,
psychology of Will Smith over
exactly.
here.
We should one day. But you know, their relationship has played a lot into that, and so you know, you can tell within the high strung nature of it all, him being at the very very front of the stage at the Oscars, and he's practically, you know, it's either him or Denzel who's going to win the Oscar. He's feeling it. He probably thinks he's going to win it, and just so many emotions going around. He goes up there, slaps him, boom. Okay, his career is kind of up in the air, and so you know at this point, I'll be honest with you, the fact that the Oscars didn't kick him off, like supposedly they say that they asked him to and he didn't want to leave. Who am I to know? Who am I to say? But the fact that they never kicked him off, the fact that they let him go up there and say the speech and everything like that, they shouldn't kick him from the Oscars. Like you already let him do all that. What's the next 10 years going to do to him? You know, like just let him be, let him keep the Oscar, let him go on his way because you didn't do anything. I don't know what this precedent is going to set from here on out,
Right.
but it's just one of those things that it's just, I already felt like the Oscars was getting already awkward all the
Yeah.
time. And, you know, like
That's a
Hans
good
Zimmer
way to
won an
put it.
Oscar and they just said it that he won the Oscar. He wasn't there because he was, I think he was busy on the Oppenheimer movie or he's busy doing something, which, you
Right.
know, I get that.
That's
But
hilarious.
Hans Zimmer, one of the greatest, you know, person for sound, you know, for of all time, wins an Oscar, they just speak it, you know, and then it just, I don't know. One question I do want to ask you, and actually, I will say Coda 1. Coda is a great movie. If you haven't watched it, Apple TV Plus, go check it out. I loved it. I thought it was great. The dad in that movie won an Oscar, which is
Right.
awesome. I think that's super cool for the deaf community to see somebody of their own being up there winning because of their abilities to act, even without even being able to speak. But he put on a great performance in that movie, and he deserves it. But Michael, I want to know, and I thought about this after I was watching the Oscars and just contemplating on it. Do you think, you know, as somebody, you want to make a movie one day? I mean, I'm sure it would be your dream to have something come out in the movie theaters and that kind of stuff.
Oh,
Is your dream
100%.
to win an Oscar anymore? Do you think that's any filmmaker director's dream anymore is to win an Oscar, or is there something? Is there something different that filmmakers nowadays are achieving other than just that award now?
That's a good question. I think that's a really good question, actually. Um, it's something probably for me. I would say, yeah, I would still probably would want to win an Oscar at some point in my life if that was something that was incredibly feasible. I just think that you just the pedigree that comes along with just like having, let's just say, like a best picture or best director Oscar. You're like the select few people, you know, who've been around since, you know, whenever they started doing Oscars, like the 1910s or 20s, who've been able to get that nomination to win that award. Like you're basically getting this award saying you're the best of the best. And to me, it's just having that gratification, that kind of culminating moment where you can kind of look at it and be like it's like probably like the equivalent to winning the Super Bowl for like like a football player or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like that feeling that I don't think anything's going to be able to ever top that. So that's more for me. I mean, that's what I feel like that would what an Oscar would feel like for me right now at this point in my life. Would be like a crowning jewel in like my film career, to be saying like, hey, I made it, you know. But a lot of people don't feel that way. Some people are pretty content with just, you know, being indie filmmakers and just, you know, doing festival runs and you know, winning, you know, different kinds of awards really, and just kind of building their brand from that. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. I think on the to play devil's advocate, there's a lot of politics that comes into winning an Oscar.
definitely.
A lot of handshaking, kissing babies, a lot of money gets moved a lot of ways to get, you know, these nominations going. So to say it's just based purely on talent and esteem, it's not necessarily true. You have to have a lot of backing from studios, and you know, it's a lot of, you know, it's a lot of I don't want to say bribery, but but it's a lot of persuasion in terms of getting the
Yeah.
Academy to kind of, you know, feel towards nominating you for that award. So I don't blame anybody who feels disenfranchised by the concept of the Academy Awards. It is a little rigged in some ways, but for me personally, I think it would be. I think if I won, like especially something for like best director or best picture of something I wrote, I think I could probably die the next day happy, just knowing that I
Okay.
won that. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
a little extreme, but that's probably
No, yeah.
how I feel about it. So
Well, that's good. That's good to hear because I mean, as it's, I don't know. It was one of those things I was contemplating the whole time where I was like, man, do I even care anymore? Like, not
no.
that I personally, in regards to like, if I were to ever make a film, if I were to ever make something of
Mhm.
consequence that can be on the Oscar stage as a nominee, do I even care to win that? You know, and it's hard because in my mind, at the moment when I was watching the Oscars, I was like, maybe not, just because in my mind I'm like having to sit and watch all this other stuff around it that makes me feel so like I don't know, like it really
Inconsequential.
yeah, yeah, and kind of embarrassed of like everything around this that's supposed to be representing my entire industry just seems
Oh,
so embarrassing and so not like not I don't not the word professional, but it's not really bringing this nice light to what the art of what we're actually trying to talk about right now, you know? And
100%.
and so it's almost as if I'm trying to sit somewhere to wait to see if I'm going to get an award, but I have to sit through all this horrible jokes, all this horrible propaganda, all this horrible, takes from just multiple different people from whatever sides. I don't care. And I'm like,
Right.
man, I just want to see if my movie won. Like, I want to see if
Hmm.
my blood, my blood and tears and the people, my team that I worked with, the actors that put in all the work, the editors that put in all the work, the timeless nights I put into work is going to win an award. That's all I want to see. And so it's hard.
No, I agree. I feel like kind of like what I was saying in the beginning. It's almost lost. It's like I don't know, like it's lost the magic. I guess I can't really fathom like a better way of phrasing it, but it just seems more less organic, more artificial in terms of like the presentation. It's very like cookie cutter, and it's like I think something like with the slap with Will Smith just kind of shows like how kind of for lack of a better word, ass backwards kind of like these
Yeah.
ceremonies have kind of become. So
Yeah.
I 100% feel you because it's kind of like, especially like how awkward it was probably just carrying on the show after that. Like
Most
people probably
definitely.
were like, it probably pissed a lot of people off just knowing that, a lot of their achievements were pretty much just overshadowed by,
Especially
this
like Questlove.
controversy.
Like he was
Yeah.
the he was the it was documentary that Chris Rock was going up to talk about, and the slap happens, and then Questlove goes up to tell this heartbreaking speech about the fact he's there representing his dad, which he has ashes of. His mother's in the crowd, and I'm like, I was upset because like, dude, Will, why would you have to steal the sunlight from this guy? So,
Hmm.
anyways, it is what it is. I don't know.
It was kind of selfish, 100%. So
Yeah. So, I will say before we leave this entire topic of the Oscars and get into actually the meat of the show, Michael, I do have one question for you.
let's hear it.
If Chris Rock was
Oh,
replaced
God.
with The Rock, would Will Smith walk up there?
um, well, let me just say, Will Smith can definitely walk up there. Now, would he be able to walk back to his
Yeah.
seat on his own two legs?
Yeah.
I
Yes.
don't know. That's
Yes.
that's tough to say. I think The Rock would probably turn him into a human boomerang and then place him back in his seat.
Yeah.
But I would not think that Rock would take that kindly if Will Smith tried to pop some hands on him. He'd probably get eaten alive. To be honest, he'd probably just eat his jugular in
Yeah.
front of
Definitely.
everybody. So
Definitely. All right. Moving on to what we've been watching, y'all. We're going to get into the first movie of the show. We're going to talk about the Batman. The Batman directed. It was decorated by somebody, but it was directed by Matt Reeves, and we have a good cast of people here. Rob Pattinson as Bruce Wayne, Zoe Kravitz as Selena Kyle, Jeffrey Wright as Lieutenant James Gordon, Colin Farrell as the Penguin, Paul Dano as the Riddler, and the list can go on and on. Michael, I want to know you've have you seen majority of the Batman movies?
Yeah, yeah, I would say growing up, next to Spider-Man, Batman was probably up there in terms of like superheroes for me. So
Okay.
I grew up watching, Michael Keaton, Val Kilmer, George Clooney, um, Christian Bale, of course. So I've seen quite a few different Batmans. I've seen a little bit of Batfleck. Um, our gym has
Definitely.
a movie theater, so they were playing Batman versus Superman. So I watched
Nice.
like the first 25 minutes of that, and I was like, yeah, yeah, I think I'm good. I don't think I was missing much after that, but yeah, I would say so. I'm pretty well versed in like the Batman filmography since Adam West moving forward. So I've
Okay.
seen quite a bit. So
Okay. So before Matt Reeves the Batman, what would you have said was like, your favorite Batman movie to watch?
honestly, I really like the Tim Burton Batman
Oh,
movies.
okay.
I feel like everyone says Christopher Nolan, and like yes, they are good. Dark Knight is great. Everybody's those are all great movies. Like don't get me wrong, but in terms of like what Batman is, in terms of like a superhero movie, I think they were really good at keeping that dark tone, but still keeping it fun in some ways. Because you had Danny DeVito as the Penguin, you had Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman, you know, um, and it's almost similar to this one, where I mean, I think a little bit of the Tim Burton movies are a little more campy. I think they were still similar though, because it wasn't too crazy. You know what I mean? It was still
Yeah.
within a realm of reality, right? They didn't have like the Batman credit card, like in the Clooney movies or whatever, bat nipples. I think it was still grounded in some level of reality, but it was still fun. It didn't take itself overly serious, but just serious enough to like what you would expect with the tone of with Batman. Almost in
Right.
the same way like the animated series. I don't know if you ever watched that growing up. I
Yeah.
felt
Yeah.
it was kind of like hand in hand with that. And I think that's what Batman is. I think Christopher Nolan did a great job of like modernizing Batman, but it almost went too militaristic in a way in terms
Interesting.
of
Okay.
like with the storylines and stuff. Like I don't know. It lost some of that fun for a more serious, darker tone,
Okay.
which give or take, right? It just depends. But I would definitely say like the Batman Returns, I think is what it was, the one with
Yeah.
Danny DeVito as the Penguin. I think that one's pretty solid. That's probably up there for me.
Okay. Okay. For me, I mean, I grew up. I think I've seen the first Michael Keaton Batman. I've seen Batman and Robin.
Oh
I've
God,
seen
sorry to hear that.
what was the Val Kilmer one? Forgot what that one's called. Batman Forever. I don't know what it
It
is.
sounds about right. That's the one with Two Face, Jim Carrey
Yes. Yes.
as the
Yes. Yes. Yes,
Riddler.
yes. I've seen all the Christopher Nolan ones, and I never saw the original ones with the first ones with I forgot his name. Um, the first Batman. I don't remember.
Adam West, is that what you're talking
Adam
about?
West. Thank you. I've never seen that. But I will say, growing up, I was nostalgic for the George Clooney Batman and Robin. Give me them bat nips any day. But other than that, I will say, I enjoyed the Christopher Nolan Batman movies. I'm not going to act like I'm some guy who's like, no, they're not that good. They're good.
Yeah,
I like
no.
them. We've heard it over and over and over again. Yes, they're good. Yes, Batman Returns. Yes, it is. Or no, The Dark Knight. That one's good. I really like that one a lot. I will say though, I do appreciate Ben Affleck's Batman. We did not get enough of it, but I do think like the small amount that we did get of him, I was like, that is a dope Batman that I wish we could have gone a little bit more of because one, Ben Affleck compared to all the other Batmans beforehand, dude can like if he works out, he's a tank. And so he in the suit just looked like the beefy Batman from like from the cartoons
You
and
think Christian Bale was beefy in his costume? He was pretty buff, man. If you see him in Batman Begins, he's like ridiculously built.
here's the thing. He's ripped, but I don't think he looks like a tank. That's all I'm saying. Like I don't know if you see there's that funny image. I don't remember if it was Captain America or if it was Superman, forgot who, but it was this old cartoon comic image of Captain America. It's like a 3/4 pew profile, and his
Uh,
chest is so puffed out, it looks anatomically not correct, and it's a
like
joke.
tumors.
Yeah, and so that's practically what Ben Affleck looked like. He looked like a tank like that, and so I liked the way he was suave in it. I think he was cool. I wish we actually because Matt Reeves I think originally was supposed to make a Batman movie with him, Well, let me rephrase that. Ben Affleck was supposed to direct the Batman movie, and then he stepped down from directing. Matt Reeves jumped in, and then they kicked. Then Ben Affleck was like, "I'm not doing this anymore." Hence, that's where we got the Robert Pattinson, the Batman movie. So, anyways, with all that being said,
That's
Michael,
crazy. I didn't
what are
know all
your
that
thoughts?
context.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to lay the ground floor for everybody. What are your thoughts on the Batman?
Honestly, dude, it's a long movie, man, but it's one of those movies that I could feel like I could rewatch, and that's like, not to sound arrogant, but that's like one of the highest esteems I can give a movie. If I could
Definitely.
say, if I can rewatch it again and be just as entertained, I was probably more entertained the second time because like the first time I was just like, wow, this is really cool, and then the second time I was like, okay, there's some like genuinely funny moments. I
Nice.
think I got to give a shout out to Colin Farrell as the Penguin.
Yes.
Probably hands down one of my favorite characters in that movie. That man's just a meme in my mind,
Yep.
just with like his accent or whatever. Me, that doesn't go. And one of his lines doesn't go quoted around my house. Not even like we don't miss it once a day. So every day is just constant Penguin quotes throughout the
Nice.
day. So and same thing with the Riddler. I mean, I can go jump into that here in a sec. But overall, I think in terms of what the movie was, I think it did everything perfectly in terms of walking that line. It's a gritty noir, which I was like, thank you. Finally, like this is what I've been wanting in like a Batman movie, something a little more authentic to like the source material. I think you got a little bit of that with the 80s and 90s kind of Batman, and then we kind of lost it once we got into Nolanville and we started getting that more militarized, like, dark New York City looking vibe. So it lost a lot of that noir feeling. The other thing is, Batman's a detective. He's like a world class detective. He's like
The best
Sherlock
detective.
Holmes. Exactly. So, what I really didn't like about the Nolan films, there wasn't a lot of detective work. It was just like him just beating shit up and just like car chases, which is that's cool. Don't
Thank
get me
you.
wrong. That's awesome. But he also he's a multifaceted character. He doesn't just beat things up. He's actually a really smart guy.
Yeah.
So I'm really glad we got to see that. I'm really glad we got to see a Batman that's still like figuring out the dichotomy of his like person between being Bruce Wayne
Yes.
and Batman and figuring out who he is. And it was a very interesting character arc because I think we did genuinely more than other than other Batman movies previously. We really did see a character arc. He kind of figuring out what this Batman character persona is. Is this like a force of vengeance or is it something more than that? Because like, the whole time the movie's kind of playing around the fact that the Riddler and Batman are kind of the same thing, just two sides of a different coin,
Right.
and kind of how he distinguishes himself from being someone just like the Riddler is that he goes out of his way to kind of be this beacon of hope at the worst possible time, for Gotham, right? And kind of being that hope to kind of rebuild the city, being that hope for people to not be afraid of him, and being able to bring in that level of justice. So I thought that was awesome. My only gripe is there's a major plot hole with this movie
Oh,
in terms of the photos. So if anybody were to look at those
okay.
photos, like at the beginning they're kind of showing the photos of the mayor walking out with the hoochie mama,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah,
the
yeah,
escort, so to speak. Um, anyone,
yeah. Hoochie
anybody would
mom.
have, anybody should have been like, where did these photos get taken from? And the angle would have just matched up to his apartment complex. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh, uh-huh.
it's not like he just like went somewhere. Because like, think about it. Like where his apartment is at the end of the movie, it's pretty close to the Iceberg Lounge, right?
Yes.
And the photos look like they were taken like right outside the Iceberg Lounge, like right across the street, like where his apartment complex is. So if he
Yes.
put it one and one together, he could have been like, "Oh wow, someone up there probably took these photos." You know what I mean?
I see
I
what you're
think
saying.
that's such a glaring plot hole. I'm like, that's like you wouldn't have to do these stupid riddles, dude. You would just would have found out like a whole week
That's
earlier. So
that's a
doing this
very good
whole
point. That's a very good
whole
point.
doing this whole run around. But other than that, obviously, movie magic, whatever. I thought it was good. I thought it was a really interesting movie from beginning to end. But yeah, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on what you thought about it and what the future may hold for future Batman sequels because I know they just confirmed that they're doing a second one. So
Yes,
I'm
yes.
ready for the Robert hot take on this.
Well, I will say I want to go back to this plot hole that you said because that is hilarious as heck. I feel like what would have been a great way to just fill that plot hole really fast is because I love the fact that they play with Alfred's actually really smart,
Right.
and he's actually like he's really involved in all of this. It would have been awesome, if he was in the hospital bed and Bruce Wayne's like showing him the photos, like, why don't you just look at where the photo was taken? And then he'd be like, what? And so that would have been.
I feel like you need to answer like a SpongeBob sound effect, like the dong, like the dong sound.
Yeah, exactly. That would have been awesome. I really, really dug this movie, man. It's one of those where Vanessa and I were sitting down, and man, I don't think Vanessa really saw any of the Batman movies at all. And so she kind of went in with this kind of being one of her first times, being seeing one of these. And it's one of those things where if Vanessa and I are watching a movie, what I love about Vanessa is that if there's gore, if there's action, if there's anything like that, she loves it. She's all about it. And so the thing is, if we're in a movie like this and we start laughing, it's because we're laughing and it's obviously not funny. We're laughing because we're like, dude, this is dope as heck. And so a majority of the time we kept looking at each other and we're like, are you seeing what I'm seeing right now? Like, this is awesome. And so I loved every single bit of it. I know some of the criticisms people are giving, like, it's so emo Batman and this and that, which I get it, but like there is versions of Batman where he's just very much so like this, and I enjoy this. I like this a lot. He's still super young. He's still trying to figure things out. The fact that they keep playing that Nirvana song over and over over again, never got tired of it. Like,
I did. I gotta be honest. That's almost my.
Oh, did you really?
I was starting to get nauseous, but I also don't like Nirvana, so I'm sorry. Don't send your hate mail to me, right?
Yeah, I'll put your address in the comments down below. But I enjoyed it. I even the theme for Batman, like dun 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 dun, dun, like that iconic. Constant feel. It already is iconic. Like, I just like, dude, I love it. And so I think they did such a great job. Is there some misses for me? I think one miss in particular for me was the moment when again, this is a young Batman. He doesn't have everything figured out. Love it. They didn't give us every money shot that we wanted quite yet. Like the coming, like flying from a building and giving the cape. Like, we didn't get that, which is awesome. We got like the first version of that, which is a wingsuit. But I will say, I don't know what was going on with that camera angle. Like the camera, like almost like a GoPro
shooting his face
over his head. Yeah. It was a little awkward, I'll be honest, but it's whatever. I love the fact that scene ends with him getting knocked out and then like he's still learning. I love every aspect of it. And that Lieutenant Gordon is not Commissioner Gordon yet, or they're still putting the pieces together, and I loved every aspect of it. I think what would have been
that actually was like a really funny scene when they're in the interrogation. It's like 60 cops in there. They're like trying to fight them all at once, and then Batman's just kicking their ass.
Yeah, exactly, dude. It's I think what's interesting about the whole thing is the fact that this has so much that we can build off of. I'm kind of getting a little worried because I do know that they are making a second one. I can't wait. I'm a little worried because I know with the whole WB Discovery merger that happened, I know Discovery, I think it's been talked about that they're planning a complete reshift and refocus of everything DC movie related, because they want to get everything back in line, start all over again, and make it just like the MCU, which honestly not a bad idea. They do need to do that, better late than never, but I hope that doesn't erase this movie. Either or.
I doubt it. I sincerely doubt it. I think with how well this one is doing, they already greenlit the second one, so obviously they're in full support of it. What I would be worried about is how they integrate the Matt Reeves Batman into like a bigger,
good point,
DC universe, so to speak. Because I actually kind of like it just being a standalone thing. Like, I don't want my peas touching my mashed potatoes. You know what I mean? Like, just keep those separate. Have like a whole different Batman that they want to use for that. I think that'd be fine. But yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. I agree, 100%.
They definitely could be. They definitely can reboot the entire the entire DCEU, and then just make standalone movies, and then eventually they link up. We don't need to do this whole thing at the end credit scene for the Batman 2. I don't know, Lex Luthor comes out in the end, and then it's like, Superman's coming. They don't have to do all that. And so, either or, I am excited for the future of this entire show. I know we're getting an HBO Max show directed by Matt Reeves.
Just for the
Supposedly
Penguin.
it's about the Penguin, yeah. Which
That's
shout
great.
out to Colin Farrell. The Penguin was awesome. Andy Serkis as Alfred. That's the dopest casting ever. I love Andy Serkis. I think he's awesome. So I think it fits perfectly with his like he can. I don't know. He's that really like rough kind of guy that is perfect for that role. I will say I thought they were going to kill him off, and I thought that would have been pretty ballsy for them to do and be like, you know what? Okay, I respect it. And they did keep
Right
him
off the
alive.
bat.
And I think some people were kind of upset about that. Are you upset about that, or you're cool with him being alive?
I'm cool with him being alive. I honestly thought he died. I was like, dang, that's going to be crazy that they already killed Alfred this early on. But again, it's like I think it would have worked for the movie, to be honest. From like a cinema, from a film standpoint, I think it would have like been a really good motivation for Bruce Wayne or whatever to really track down the Riddler. But at the same time, it's like, what are you gonna do for the sequels? Like you're gonna be
Yeah,
missing like a very pivotal character. So I think that was like a happy medium where he did get severely injured and was in the hospital. I kind of humanized Batman a little bit, brought him back to
definitely,
being Bruce Wayne a little bit more.
definitely.
So I thought that was a good call. But yeah, I would have probably been long term wise. I probably would have been more upset about him being killed off so early before we really got to see him do his thing in the future movies. So
Okay, okay. Before we end off on the Batman, I'm gonna kick this last question to you, and then if there's anything else you want to say about the Batman, go ahead. But what is your feeling about them already teasing the Joker, which supposedly he's not the Joker yet? Matt Reeves has come out and said he doesn't even have the moniker the Joker yet. And so, what is your thoughts on that? Did you see that extended clip, that deleted clip? Give me your full thoughts on that.
I think the kid from the Eternals did good. Was his name Barry, whatever his last name is?
Barry Keoghan.
Keegan. There is Barry Keoghan. I think that did a really good job. Definitely very different Joker than what we're used to seeing. Pretty messed up looking guy.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I've that was one of my other gripes too. Is just like I'm pretty sick of the Joker being in these movies, man. It's like they're almost shoehorn him in everything, and it's like, dude, like there's so many other villains. Like I think of all like superheroes and like all universes, DC or MCU. I think in terms of like really rich, interesting, dynamic villains, I think Batman always has a really good rogues gallery when it comes to that, because a lot of their issues is very grounded in like real world stuff, like whether it's like mental issues, whatever it may be. There's real humanity behind their flaws, and it's very raw and it's very relatable. So that's what makes them interesting as villains, and that's why we like to watch them, right? But at the end of the day, it's like I feel like it's just we had a Joker movie come out not too long ago. Before that, we had the Dark Knight Rise or the Dark Knight. It's just like I don't need the Joker. I honestly want another Mr. Freeze. That's what I want to see. I think Mr. Freeze is a dope villain. I think you could do a lot of cool stuff with that. I know he's mentioned it before, but I think Mr.
Arnold
Freeze
come
would be
back?
really definitely do not bring Arnold back. Maybe in a wheelchair or a walker. I think he's a little too old to be Mr. Freeze, but I think if they do it right and they make it grounded like how they've been kind of doing with all the other characters so far, the Reeves universe of Batman, I think it'd be really cool just keeping it with that noir style kind of film. So yeah, I'm kind of over the Joker. I think Barry did a really good job. I actually think they did a great job of not including him more in the movie, because I think it really would have broken up the pacing a lot in a negative way. And I just think it would have just really distracted from the overall movie more than it probably would have helped. So I hope they hold off on it at least for another movie before they introduce the Joker, maybe by Batman 3, Armageddon or whatever they decide to call it. They want to throw the Joker in there. It totally can. That's totally up to them. But I want to wait before we get to the Joker train.
Definitely. I agree. I mean, I think I think that's the unfortunate thing is like when you get Batman, you get the Joker. I could have done without them even teasing him at all. They can tease him. That doesn't mean we're gonna see him.
Right.
They could be building up whatever is going on in Arkham with all these different enemies. There's been rumors going around that the next movie is about Hush, which is like this different kind of enemy that's a reporter or something like that. Like seems interesting, but
Right.
again, Barry Keoghan, I think he did a good job. I'm surprised the way he talked. I was like, man, dude, in the Eternals, I wasn't really able to understand what you were saying because like English is not his first language. In this movie, it was like clear as day to me. So I just don't know what happened between those two movies, but
He
he
stepped it up.
yeah, exactly. I'm interested in what he's gonna look like in this. Like, there's been some people who have been putting images together of like the scenes
He
showing what
looks
he
pretty
looks like.
gross.
He looks mutilated, and there's like a comic series where like the Joker has someone else's face on his face. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that would be interesting. I don't know, but we'll have to wait and see. I'm excited to see what else we get from the Batman 2. What's your favorite? Do you remember what your favorite quote is from Batman and Robin with Arnold Schwarzenegger?
My favorite quote from that movie.
Yeah, yeah.
Honestly, I can't. I guess it'd have to be one of Schwarzenegger's one-liners, his puns. He's like, "What does he say? Chill out or something like
He
that."
does
And he
say
just
chill
phrases
out. He does say chill out. You know who killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age. Or something. Anyways, let's go on to Turning Red. Turning Red, directed by Domichi. She's the one who did the short clip at the beginning. I forgot what Pixar movie, but it was Bow. Love that short clip. And then she went on to direct Turning Red and a Pixar movie. I will say before we get into it, I was kind of sad when it was announced that it was going to be a Disney Plus movie,
Yeah,
just because of the
100%.
fact that one, I was already a fan of Domichi. I was following her work. I liked Bao a lot, and then the fact that they were making this movie from the moment the first trailer came out, I was like, dude, I can't wait to see this in the theaters. And then it got turned into a Disney Plus movie, which I think it doesn't for me, but I know for a lot of people it lowers the quality of what you would think the movie would be. It's not of any. It's not lower in any quality. I think it is a peak Pixar movie as it could be, but just for it coming straight to service, it just kind of puts that a little sourness to it, I guess.
What's the frustrating part is that they filmed it, and I know it's silly because it's an animated movie, so you're gonna be like, Mike, what are you talking about? They filmed it, but they basically optimized it for IMAX. Like, it was a movie that was meant to be seen in theaters, and I think that was the plan all along. And I remember when I went to Cinemark, they had movie posters for the movie,
Yeah,
there. So it was gonna happen. So I don't know why all of a sudden they just got cold feet on it. I think they honestly, what I was hearing is that they just didn't think the movie was going to perform that well. They had really low expectations for it, which is disappointing because I actually didn't really have any like expectations going into the movie, which sometimes is the best thing when you can do that. I actually thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was really good. It was pretty entertaining. Gave me lots of laughs. But honestly, it was a good movie because it really jumped on those things that Disney movies tend to like jump away from. In terms of like kids movies, I think you know what I'm alluding to, but just like like puberty and just going
definitely.
through that weird, you know, growing pains that you're going through with that, especially as a female character. There's different things that are unique to females, obviously, without getting into the nitty gritty here on my
Yeah,
side.
yeah, yeah.
So this movie didn't shy away from that, which I thought it was good and interesting in a way because I think they
Definitely.
should normalize those kind of conversations with people that are going into that stage in their life. So yeah, I'm very disappointed in Disney for chickening out on this one, especially when they put Eternals out on theaters and they had all the confidence in the world in that. I was like, that's bold, Disney. It's really bold. So,
What were your thoughts on Turning Red? Did you enjoy it? Did you like it?
yeah, no, I thought it was great. It's funny because, like, being an immigrant myself, what I find is that a lot of people, even though they might have not be from the same country as me, is that we have very similar upbringings just because of there's that difference between generations, between how your parents were raised in a different country versus you coming to another country and kind of having to Americanize, or in this case Canadianize yourself to some extent, but still keep those traditions alive, and that tug and pull. And it's hard. It's a very hard thing to do. So I thought it was really good. I thought a lot of that stuff was like relatable. Thought the mom and daughter dynamic was really funny.
Definitely.
I thought they did a really good job of that. I think the ending when they're like destroying the stadium together, I thought that whole action sequence was dope.
Yeah.
Super funny though, but it just managed to keep everything very heartwarming, and but also like real to reality of like what people actually go through. It's not like Cinderella or like Snow White or something like that, and like where people these like mystical beings or something like that. It was very real. I don't think people actually turn into pandas, but you know what I'm getting at.
Agreed. I really enjoyed the movie a lot. I think I and I could be wrong. I think ever since the movie Luca, from
Mm,
then on, I feel like Pixar has been giving their artists a bit more agency within their own art style and then kind of deliver on that. And so, with Luca, I think the characters in Luca don't look like every other Pixar human character.
oh,
And
not at all.
the same for Turning Red. Like Turning Red looks so of a different art style. I love it. There's the like very, very old like manga cartoons look like the people in Turning Red, which is awesome. Very round faces, everything's a little curved around, the nose, the chin, the face, everything. And I loved it. The art style was awesome. The use of colors was awesome. Like it was very pastel in a lot of
Mm-hmm.
instances. And I agree. I think the story was great. I think what they were trying to do, they delivered on. I am sad that this did not come out in theaters because I was going to be there day one, but I did watch this movie day one on Disney Plus. So either or, I think they won still. But I liked it. I enjoyed it. I can't wait to see what Domishi does next because I think this was such a good movie. I can't wait to see what she does after this. And I don't know, like I guess as a new director for Pixar, I'm not quite sure if there's like a limit. Like I'm pretty John Lasseter is not there anymore, but I'm pretty sure John Lasseter was like, I want to direct this Pixar movie. I'm pretty sure they'll be like, all right, here's a lot of money. Go direct what you want to do. With the newer director for Pixar, they're like, yeah, we know you're Pixar, but let's keep it together just in case this doesn't pan out well. So
Right.
I'm hoping that this did well. I'm hoping that this caught the attention of a lot of people, and then her next project can be thus more. So, is there anything else you want to say about Turning Red, Michael?
Yeah, I mean, I hope Disney just kind of you know takes those chances and really gives those opportunities to those filmmakers to really just be able to put their art out there and just have a little bit more faith. Obviously, if you are putting the money to commission a whole studio to make this movie, have the frankly the balls to be able to put it in theaters and have faith in its success because I think it's just really insulting, probably for the director just to have their movie kind of taken out of theaters last second and been putting on a streaming service. I'm sure I'd feel
Definitely.
some type of way about that. So, yeah, so we'll see how that pans out. I wish them all the success. I can't wait for a Turning Red 2, maybe Turning Purple, whatever that sequel would look like. Little dad joke in there for everybody. So,
Turning
yeah,
Purple.
no, it was a banger. I definitely enjoyed watching it.
As we continue this conversation on the good old Big Mickey himself, Michael, Moon Knight came out. It is a standalone. Well, they never said this, but the show Moon Knight kind of stands on its own to an extent. The show, obviously, but I not iconic. Not many people know of Moon Knight, but I mean, some people do. I know of some friends who are big Moon Knight fans. But played by Oscar Isaac, we have Ethan Hawke, May Kalamawi, and then F. Murray Abraham as the voice of Khonshu, and some other people. The
Right.
the show very much so played as a standalone thing within the MCU. It is still part of the MCU, but it was very separate. There was a lot of things after the show came out where they were like, yeah, the Eternals were supposed to come out in this part, and I think this other superhero was supposed to come out in this part, but they cut all that back and just kept it singular. And I don't know if that helps the show at all, if it made it better, but I will say my top few thoughts on the entire show is Oscar Isaac's an amazing actor. Don't
Oh,
know if
100%.
anyone I
Yeah.
don't know if anyone has ever questioned that, but holy God, he is such a good actor. And I love this show because of his acting, but nothing else. I don't think I at the end of the entire show, I was not interested in the superhero Moon Knight. I was interested in Mark and Steven, but not Moon Knight as a superhero. Um, you can Ethan Hawke, I think, was interesting. I think his love interest who becomes the Scarlet Scarab was interesting, but the entire show was so focused on him. And then when we got stripped away from his powers for 2.5 episodes, it just felt kind of like, okay, what's this
Flat.
show really about? It kind of flatlined for a second. Yes, it's good. We just get to see Oscar Isaac perform for 30-40 minutes, but like I don't think that was enough for this show to be that great, to be quite honest. And I will say by the end of it, when we get this opportunity for there to be a cool fight scene, and I mean, I'm going on slight spoilers here, guys. Okay. So when we get to this cool fight scene between Moon Knight and Ethan Hawke's character, and then it cuts, and then he's like already at the end of that fight scene because he like blacked out and a different personality took effect in that
Right.
moment. I'm like, guys, we've been waiting for 6 episodes to see who this other personality is, and you're not going to show us the brutal fight that showcases this person's like abilities. No,
Right.
they're not going to show any of it. And so that's all I got to say is, I don't even know what Moon Knight is still. Like, what does Moon Knight do? Like, I know he can fight cool, but like, I thought Khonshu, the animated Egyptian god character, was doing cooler fight things than he was. And so I don't know. Those are my 2 cents. I wanted to really like this show. I only like it for Oscar Isaac, and I will only continue watching it because of Oscar Isaac. So, Michael, what are your thoughts?
I think Oscar Isaac probably needs to see a chiropractor after the season finale for carrying the show.
Yeah.
So I 100% agree with you. I think he was a phenomenal actor. I mean, I just recently saw Drive a couple of weeks ago, and Oscar Isaac is in that movie.
Oh, really?
Believe it or not, and it's crazy.
Wow.
It blows a lot of people's minds. So I was back in like 2011. So I was young Oscar Isaac back 10 years ago. In that movie, and looks completely different, sounds completely different. But he was a phenomenal actor even then. Um, so he really carried the show. I thought he did a really good job of just being able to differentiate these two characters, even from the subtle mannerisms, the way they spoke, not even just talking about the accents, just the diction that they would use. Did a really good job of separating these characters out to make them feel like two separate people. And I think they did a pretty. I mean, I'm not a psychologist, but I thought they did a really good job of depicting, dissociative identity disorder
Definitely.
in a somewhat realistic way. Obviously, I don't think they're talking to Egyptian gods, people who suffer from that'd be crazy. But for the most part, I thought they did a really good job. I liked Khonshu's character. He's kind of like a dick, but it's almost like an endearing kind of person, like an endearing kind of dick.
Yeah.
So, he's pretty funny. He helps kind of like lighten the mood in some places here and there. I know the song from the first episode gets played in my house quite a bit as well. You know which one I'm talking about. So it was in the last episode as well.
Okay. I do not know what you're talking about.
A Man Without Love.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that gets played like nonstop over here.
Okay.
Casa de Mike.
Sweet. Mike.
So
address in the description.
Yeah, right. Send your fan mail there. Honestly, Ethan Hawke's character, I think Ethan Hawke can be a good actor. I think just something about his face bothers me. I don't know what it is, or his character. I think it was the fact that maybe he was wearing sandals like the whole time, and he had like long hair, which is really pissing me off because I was like, he just looks weird. I was like, I hate this. Besides that, I thought he did a good job. I think honestly, he just wasn't that much of an engaging villain for me to be really invested in the show and whatever he was trying to do. His motives didn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. They're like, oh, we got to purify everybody before they even do it, like some sort of Minority Report kind of thing. So I was like, okay. So, so his character felt a little underdeveloped on my side. Didn't really feel like engaging with him. He just felt like an obstacle for Mark and Steven just to overcome, but not really anything interesting as a character for me.
Right.
Honestly, found myself forgetting his name half the time. And I knew it was bad because there was like a couple episodes where I was falling in and out of sleep, which, that could be for a multitude of different reasons. We watched it during the week when I was at work and stuff like that. So that could be a little bit of it. But, honestly, if I feel like I've watched other things and, I'm at the edge of my seat, especially by Marvel, and I don't fall asleep. Like I remember watching the Winter Soldier and the Falcon, and I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah, I agree.
So this one missed the mark for me. I do agree with you. It feels a little out of place. It feels like all over the place, really. And I think a lot of it was on purpose, due to Mark and Steven's condition and how they kind of like, I mean, for lack of a better word, I'm sorry, like this is like insensitive, but basically crazy.
Yeah.
He's basically crazy, right? So he's jumping all over the place in his mind, and what's real, what's fake. And I think honestly, it's interesting. I think it's an interesting take on a superhero. I actually really like Moon Knight as a superhero, and Mister Knight, because it's interesting how they even have different heroes for each of the identities, even though it's the same
Right.
person. So I
Right.
thought that was cool. It honestly makes me just want to read the comic books more than really watch the show to kind of get a better idea for the character, because I think the character is really interesting.
Right.
But I agree with you. If I kept watching the show, it'd be probably because of Oscar Isaac and the love interest. I think they've really helped carry the show through and through. I think they're going to need a way stronger villain for season 2 of Moon Knight if this is really going to have the legs to kind of go that extra mile. But yeah, that's my 2 cents on that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the new villain for the second season has already been teased. I just don't know how they're going to play with that.
Are you
You
talking
know,
about Jake Lockley?
Jake Lockley. Yes.
So he's going to be the villain, is what I'm
I mean,
understanding.
it seems like Mark and Steven are not aware of him. Like they know that there's something going on. And so I
Right.
just don't know how they're gonna how do you oppose that? Like how do you have the same person playing two different people trying to figure out who's the third personality within that one person and then fight that third person within the same person?
Right.
Like it just I don't know how you're gonna work with that. I know the comics get a little dark. Supposedly, like in the comics, the love interest and Jake Lockley have a kid and they hide that kid from Mark and Steven.
What?
How do you depict that?
How does that even
Like
work?
it's interesting to see how this works. And Moon Knight's supposed to be a dark character, so he's supposed to be, part of the Midnight Suns and with Blade and the Black Knight and all these different kinds of things. So I don't know.
Interesting.
We'll have to wait and see what happens. I'm just wondering how is Oscar Isaac's character going to play out when he's surrounded by the Incredible Hulk and then the new Captain America. Like I just don't know how that's going to work out. But
He's
I
going to
guess
fit in.
we're gonna have to wait and see.
Well, Kevin Feige actually kind of mentioned that he said that the Avengers movie, the last one, it's probably going to be the only one where they all like team up like that.
Correct.
The Avengers style is what we're looking at. So
Correct.
I think from here on now, we're probably going to be seeing like different like groups or alliances of superheroes doing their own thing. So I'm not even aware of who the Midnight Suns are. That sounds pretty dope. I'd have to do like research into that. But yeah, no, I think definitely it's going to be interesting seeing how they kind of play it out. I just want more blood, man. Honestly, I think that's what it is.
I'm not going to lie to you.
Bad, but
the fact that like I want them to. Daredevil is such a great Marvel show. It is so good. Why can they not do that for the rest of these shows? It doesn't have to be all of them. Miss Marvel doesn't have to be on the same level of violence as Daredevil, like Netflix's Daredevil. It doesn't have to.
Right.
But Moon Knight can, And what's interesting about this is that they're already Disney themselves. Disney made Falcon and the Winter Soldier. They're already going back to that show and they're censoring things out. And I'm like, you guys made this. Why are you already censoring it? Like, it hasn't even been out for just a year yet. So it's just, it blows my mind. We'll just have to wait and see. Michael, we're going into the 58-minute mark of the show. I don't want to hold us back too long. Is there something that on your list you want to really talk about real quick? And then maybe give some quick bullet points for some other things. I want to allow you the ability to go first.
For sure. Nothing crazy, man. I'm sure we're gonna quickly skim over Doctor Strange real quick. I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So
let's give our 2 cents real fast.
Yeah, go for it. On Doctor Strange or just in general?
Doctor Strange real fast.
Sure.
You go first. You tell me what you think.
Quickly, what I thought about it, I thought it was good, man. I thought it was kind of like taking like a tab of acid or something like that for like 2 hours.
Yeah.
Because it was a trip. It was definitely wild. Sam Raimi directs it, so it's a little bit more heavily inspired by horror movies and stuff like that. So you definitely could tell it's a Sam Raimi movie just based on that.
Definitely.
Very different than the Spider-Man movies. I think he went back more so to like the Evil Dead kind of Sam Raimi days and kind
Yeah.
of the way he directed this one. Would it be a movie I'd watch again? I don't think so. Honestly, I was pretty much like pretty drained after it. The movie kind of felt all over the place for me. Um, I do like Doctor Strange. I do like Wong. Um, I don't know. I mean, I guess you'd have to watch WandaVision to really understand why Scarlet Witch is bad in this one. That's what it was. How it was going to explain to me because I was like, I thought it was random. I was like, why is she the bad guy all of a sudden? But I guess you have to watch WandaVision to get the
You do.
context of that. I just felt bad for her. I was like, man, this sucks. Like that. I think that's a good example, like a villain that's like has very like human motives and stuff like that, in contrast to
Yes.
like the villain from MoonKnight. I feel like I felt worse for her in that whole situation than anybody else.
Yes.
Um, Overall, though, I thought it was all right. I mean, it definitely doesn't have the same feel for me in terms of the first Doctor Strange. I think the first Doctor Strange was actually really good. I actually really enjoyed
Agreed.
watching that. And I think this one kind of just jumped the shark a little bit, went all over the place. So, but I think they're also dealing with a lot bigger concepts like the multiverse, and I think that's nothing to just easily bite down on. So I think they did the best they could in terms of introducing these concepts and what that looks like, and then setting up the MCU for the future. So that's my 2 cents. I'm going to pass it back to you, Robert. Go ahead and
Yeah.
give me the dirty.
So I really enjoyed the first Doctor Strange of Venice, and I rewatched it before we saw this one. Scott Derrickson, I think, did such a great job in that one, and he's a horror director. And that movie wasn't really horror-like. I think there was some small horror elements, but it wasn't really horror. The first Doctor
Right.
Strange. This one is really leaning into it, and I have to say they're really pushing that PG-13 rating in some instances. Which I'll be honest with you, I'm like, dope, let's do it. Let's go for it. This is very
Right.
much so one of those things. The same way that I said that Pixar is, I think, allowing their directors and artists to find an agency within their own art style and put that into their work. You can see that Marvel's starting to do that with this Phase 4. Taika Waititi, James Gunn, Sam Raimi now, they're bringing these
Mm-hmm.
different styles to these movies that are very different than what we've had from the past who knows how many phases. Thor 1 compared to Thor Love and Thunder is two completely different movies, art-wise, color-wise, like tone. Like they're allowing these directors to actually give a different spice to them, and I enjoy that. And I have to say that's what I do like about Multiverse of Madness is that Marvel was like, or Kevin Feige, honestly, was like, "Hey, Sam, do your thing, put your sauce on it, and then let's
Put your
see how it turns
sauce
out."
on it.
For
All
lack of a
right,
better
man.
term,
Hashtag
and
put your
then
sauce on it.
put your
There you
sauce
go.
on it, and then let's see how it does. And I'll be honest with you, I think it was good. I'm not gonna say this is the best movie ever. It's
Right.
okay at moments. I love Doctor Strange as a character. I think Benedict Cumberbatch does such a great job as him. I love him. Wong is awesome. I gotta say, dude, America Chavez. I don't want to say she's a young actress, and so that's why she's not doing that great of a job. I mean, let's go back and look at some Haley Joel Osment stuff, and let's look at the boy from Room. That's some great
Right.
acting. America Chavez, the person who's playing her, which I'm sorry, I'm Mexican. I can't pronounce your name. I have no idea how to pronounce your name. I don't think
Optional.
it wasn't a good performance. Unfortunately, I'm sorry, and it's also it's painful for me because I'm like, dude, this is family here. You know, this is a
Right.
Mexican actress up there like on display for our people. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like,
Right.
I'm
Right.
sorry, you just did not deliver. And it could either be her, it could be the direction, it could be Sam was like, hey, play it up like this, and then him directing her was probably wrong. I'm not going to put it all on her. She could have been directed poorly. Either
True.
or, I wasn't a fan of America Chavez the character. I don't want to put the blame on her as an actress, just the character.
Yeah.
Not a
It
big
could
fan.
be the direction or the writing 100%. And
Correct.
you keep in mind, like, as a kid, right? So it's like, it's obviously, you can't put her on the same pedestal as like Benedict Cumberbatch, who's like a 40-year-old man, right?
Right.
But I do agree. I mean, I honestly didn't find her that annoying, but also I'm not a big fan of like kids in like movies, to be honest with you. Um, because there's always that level of like campiness. It's always like that there's that cheese ball element where it just doesn't feel real. Like I feel like most movies don't get kids right. I think one movie that did actually was this Netflix movie with Ryan Reynolds. God, I
Oh,
forgot
the
what
Adam Project.
the Adam Project. I thought they did a really good job of writing the kid to sound like a kid, or at least a little bit more digestible as like a child character in a movie. Because a lot of
Right.
times they just seem like really dumb, and it's like kids aren't actually that dumb. They're actually a lot more smarter than we give them credit for. So for me, it's like if if you're not ready to like write for a kid, like to be able to say these things, I think just don't even include them. I honestly would
Right.
have thought
Right.
it might have been better if she was just might have been a bit older than what she was at that point. I
Definitely.
think that would have been more interesting. But yeah, I think jumping back a little bit, playing the track back a little bit to what you were
Oh, there
saying.
we go. There we go.
I
Rewind.
had to throw one of those in there.
Yeah, there we go.
I think it's great that they're kind of giving a little bit more autonomy to the directors and kind of presenting that their own style, bringing in their own vision to these movies, so it doesn't feel so cookie cutter. If that makes
Yes.
sense. I know when the Marvel movies were first starting coming out, they kind of felt the same a little bit. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like he felt like an Iron Man movie, felt like a Captain America movie, a Captain America movie felt like a Thor movie. Like even the Thor movies just felt really boring. You know what I mean? Until Takiti
Yeah.
Wadi came in. I never heard anyone say, "Wow, Thor: Dark World is my favorite movie ever." Like no
No
one's
one
ever
said that.
said that on this
No.
planet. So I think it's good. I think it's going to give a lot of longevity to the series. My only my criticism I can add to that is just I hope that they bring the right people in.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, it's like we don't want to stray too far away from the path. I'm all for bringing that uniqueness into the series, into the universe or whatever, but also still maintaining, that thread that kind of makes them feel like superhero movies, if that makes sense.
I agree. And I think what's good about that though is the fact that I think in the new world that we live in now, I comics were obviously the storylines that everyone would base everything off of.
Right.
I think with how accessible these movies are now, I think we're gonna get to a point where the movies are the baseline for all these Marvel things, and then everything's building off of that. Not the
Oh,
comics are the
100%.
are the basis. And so I think what's good about giving the directors the ability to give their own style to these things, it's almost like with the comic book series. Whoever did the art for Captain America is not the same artist who did the art for Iron Man. Sometimes, like it's all different art styles. Majority of the time, not all the time, it is because artists go back and forth from projects, but you get these different art styles and it lends to this ability to be like, oh, I really like the style to Thor Love and Thunder compared to Doctor Strange. Like it's I
Right.
like that we can tell the difference between the two. So
Exactly. Exactly. Kind of give them
um
their own personality, so to speak.
I really, man, there's some crazy moments in this movie that I really want to talk about. But it's too fresh. I don't want to spoil anything for people yet.
For
But I
sure.
will say that they introduced certain characters in this that I'm like, I cannot wait to see you in the future. And we are going to see them in the future. And so, man, it's so cool. I think there's instances and there's moments in this movie that are so cool that I'm like, I can't wait to see this play off later. But we're gonna have to wait and see because that's gonna take some time. So Adam
100%.
or Adam, I don't know why I say Adam. Adam
Wow.
Adam
Wow.
is in the
Hurt,
other
man.
podcast. I'm sorry, Michael. On your list, if you would just want to bullet point real quick some of the last things you've seen,
Yeah.
so that way we can just get a little bit of what you've been watching.
Sure. Um, just jump in real quick. So when I was out of commission for a week, I had my wisdom teeth pulled. My girlfriend actually bought a copy of Howl's Moving Castle. She's been
Nice.
wanting to get more into Studio Ghibli movies. That
Yes.
was one I haven't seen. I actually really wanted to see it, and it actually might be one of my favorites now. Up there with
Oh,
Spirited Away. To be honest, I thought it was really good. Again, like I said, one of the biggest marks I can give a movie in terms of like praise, or like the highest mark of praise I can give a movie is that it has a ton of rewatchability. I almost wanted to watch the movie the next day, just like after
nice.
we already watched it because it was so
Nice.
good. So if you haven't seen that, definitely check it out. We still got a lot of Studio Ghibli movies we gotta work through, but yeah, House is definitely up there for us. Speaking of which, saw Drive recently again a couple of weeks ago with my
You really like
family.
that movie a lot, don't you?
It is pretty good, man. I honestly, I was watching it with my younger sibling, and they were like, you know, I see a lot of memes about it, and I kind of want to check it out. I was like, bet. And it's funny because like I see the memes now, and it's just so funny because like they always make fun of like the scorpion jacket and stuff like that. And like I was literally that kid in high school that had one. I know that
Did you
sounds
really?
yeah, I did. I had a black scorpion jacket and I still have it to this day. It's
Nice.
in storage, I think, or in my closet. But it's still there, and I used to wear that thing religiously, and it's just funny to me now because like, the memes are just now coming out about that. We could do a whole video over literally me characters and movies. I don't know if you know anything about that, but there's a
No.
really good video essay. I definitely recommend about literally me characters. That's what it's called. So definitely check it out. Great movie, young Oscar Isaac in there, kind of jumping off of MoonKnight. He's really good in that. Ryan Gosling's good. Carey Mulligan, great cast. They even had God the guy from Breaking Bad,
Bryan Cranston.
Ryan Cranston. God, I felt bad. Yeah, so it has a really good all-star cast. It's honestly has a special place in my heart. Got me into filmmaking, so definitely recommend that if you haven't seen it. Better Call Saul back in action last season. Man, some of the best writing I've ever seen in television. I just really love the character of Saul Goodman. He's just really interesting. I think Bob Odenkirk does a really good job of just making him interesting and just he's kind of like a sleazebag, but it's like a sleazebag you want to see win. I mean, that's like always my favorite characters. It's like, you know, those people that operate in that gray area still have like a heart of gold, but kind of do sketchy things on the side. And you just want to see him win. I think it's a great show. You gotta put that on your itinerary, Robert, for
Okay.
sure. It's like start watching Better Call Saul.
Okay.
Because it's a prequel to Breaking Bad, so it'll kind of give you a better bit context more into the show.
Oh, good point. Good point.
Lastly, here I'm going to talk very quickly about this one. 824's X is really good. Basically, without going into the details and being demonetized here, essentially it's a movie about these adult filmmakers. I'll leave it at that. And they basically rent out like this like barn house, I guess you could
Okay.
say, out in like the middle of Texas in the 70s. And basically, it's wild. It's really gruesome. You said you and Vanessa like really gory stuff. It did not pull punches. I don't
Oh,
get
okay.
like squeamish easily with those kind of type of movies. I got very squeamish in this movie.
Oh, really? Okay.
There's a scene where someone gets stabbed in the neck and like, oh my god, like they didn't have to go that hard, Robert, is all I'm gonna say. Definitely a good one. Definitely would recommend renting it. Just because there are a lot of scandalous scenes in that movie, and my girlfriend was mad at me because she was like, I didn't know it was that kind of movie, and I was like, look, I didn't know what they were going to show. I just knew the premise. I was like, I'm a little surprised. So if you want to avoid, luckily we were the only two in the theater, so that was actually really nice. But I would have been really embarrassed if there's like other people in there. So
Probably like
um,
3 old ladies in the front.
they're like all gasping. Yeah, I don't think they would have made it past like the first 25 minutes of that movie. Kid Cudi's in that movie. I didn't even know that until I saw the credits. He's
Really?
actually he's actually in that movie. So I don't know if that's his acting debut. But he's in that movie and he's pretty good. I
Wow.
didn't even recognize him. But yeah, that wraps it for me. Robert, I'm gonna hand the mic over to you and you can tell me what you've been watching.
Well, before I finish off the show, real quick, do you think? Because I know you like the movie Drive, you've mentioned it a couple times, and I do plan on watching this movie. Or I think it's actually on our list to actually review one of these days. But
For sure.
do you feel Nicholas Winding Refn has done anything as good
Since then,
since then?
it's hard to say. I think going back to our conversation about some people who really live to get an Oscar and other people that are just fine being indie filmmakers and just making like really artsy films. I think Nicholas Winding Refn falls into that second category. He's done some really good work. Before Drive, he did this movie called Bronson. It's really good. And I definitely recommend
Oh,
that
okay.
with Tom Hardy,
Yeah.
based on a true story. So I thought he did a really good job on that. I still think movie I seen after Drive fully was Only God Forgives, and that movie's kind of a trip. It's really good. Also stars Ryan Gosling. Um, I thought he did a really good job, but I wouldn't say it had the same impact. Like if I would have saw that instead of Drive back then, probably would have not had the same impact on me that Drive did.
I see.
Um, Neon Demon was another one that he did. I think honestly, I really just appreciate his aesthetic in terms of like mashing music with the visuals. It just I don't know. His movies just feel a certain type of way that you just want to live in that world.
I see.
But in terms of like substance, it's it just depends. It depends what you're trying to get out of the movie. I mean, I think his movies are very more like nuance in terms of like subtle things. It's not very spoon fed.
Yeah.
It can almost be frustrating, almost like a Lars von Trier film. I can't stand his movies, by the way, without getting into the nitty gritty of that. But yeah, I would say Drive is probably, I don't know, that'd probably piss him off, but I would probably say that's probably like his crown jewel. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how he feels about it.
I'm gonna text
if
him
I would
right
ever
now.
said that. Yeah, tell him I just said that. He's gonna probably lose his shit. But I think that's a great movie. I think it's his best work yet. So
I will say one of my favorite video game directors of all time, Hideo Kojima, is
they're friends.
They're friends, and they keep constantly posting pictures of each other talking, and they're doing something. Like, I know Kojima Productions is going to become becoming a multifaceted movies and games thing. So,
Right.
and they are
Hideo Kojima would be the guy with a scorpion jacket walking around.
he most definitely would be. He most definitely would be. So they're doing something. Either they're working to, because originally Kojima and Guillermo del Toro were supposed to be working on Silent Hill's game that got canceled. We know what happened with that. Kojima loves movies, directors. I can see him working together with Nicholas Winding either on a game or on a movie. It could be
Drive
Nicholas
the movie.
Winding for real, or it could be Death Stranding coming as a movie directed by Nicholas Winding. That would be awesome. I don't know. Either or. To finish off my list, a couple things here. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. I want to make this a point. It is the best movie that has come out within 100 years.
Wow. Wow.
That's a big
tall
statement. I will say it is one of the best movies that's come out in a very long time. And I think that this movie is most definitely going to be one of those that will inspire a lot of things going forward. It does something so different that I've never seen before. So creative, so heartfelt. I've never laughed, cried, laughed, then cried again within a matter of like a minute. It is paced beautifully. The story is told beautifully. The acting is unbelievable. And the cinematography and just all of the editing is so good. I never was lost in any of it. They're obviously playing around with the joke, the multiverse of whatever, because that is the thing that's going on with the comics and everything going on with DC. It's a joke, but they lean into it so hard that it's not even about the multiverse at the end of it all necessarily. It's about the singular character of who Michelle Yeoh is playing as, and then the characters around her. And I'm telling you, if you miss your chance of watching this in the theater, you are missing your chance of watching this movie at the peak of what it's supposed to be watched as. If you're not in the theater and you have 360 surround sound going all around you, booming in that room, you're missing out on the experience. I'm just telling you that right now.
How much did A24 pay you to say that, Robert?
I can't tell you, but the money's going in my account right now as we speak. So I'm telling you, you have to watch Everything Everywhere All at Once. That's a movie. On the level of TV shows, I'm not a big TV show watcher, but I think Apple TV has been coming out with some bangers over and over and over again. And Severance is another one. If you love cinematography, if you love just these ideas that are just like make you think, Severance is there. By the end of the entire show, I'm not kidding, I was like jumping out of my seat like, give me season 2 right now, please. Ben Stiller directs a lot of the episodes in this show. Adam Scott is the main actor, and he's surrounded by other actors, John Turturro, and then a few. The show is awesome, dude. It is about, it's about the topic of these people who agree to take the surgery that allows them to be severed so that when they go to work, they're one entity. And then when they leave, they're another entity. The outside entity does not know what's going on in the inside entity, and the inside does
Ooh,
not know what's going on in the outside. And that in and of itself comes with conflict that is starting to cross over between the two, the outie and the innie. And it is just unbelievable what the story does to keep you enthralled all the way through. The acting, there's some moments, dude, that like, you know how in MoonKnight when Oscar Isaac was playing as Mark and then was switched to Steven right away? There's some moments that happen like that in here that I'm like, bro, that's awesome. And so I highly recommend Severance. It is some really, really good TV. Other
gotcha.
than that, The Northman, if you just want to see this like crazy Norse mythology movie and he jacked Skarsgård, check out that movie. That dude is jacked. After that was done, I'm not kidding. When I was laying in bed that night, I was starting to look up gym memberships. I was like, how do I get that big? And so if you
I'm
like
gonna upgrade here.
yeah, how do I get an upgrade? If you want to see a movie and it's gory, it's fun to watch, dude. There's some awesome kind of cinematography going on as well, and some nice shots that it's super cool.
Robert
Check
Eggers directed that, right?
Yes, he did.
Lighthouse.
Yes, he
Nice.
did.
Okay. I'll add that to the list.
Supposedly it's not doing too well in the box office, but I don't know if that's his fault. So we'll have to you be the judge of that one.
For sure.
And then lastly, Under the Banner of Heaven. It's a Hulu TV show. Been enjoying it. It's with Andrew Garfield. It's based off of a best-selling book. It's a cool detective story. Check it out. It's not done yet. I don't have it on the list, but Atlanta season 3 is out. I love Atlanta. Donald Glover, give me everything Donald Glover's in. I think he is one of the most talented people in music, in TV, in movie. Like he is a talented guy. So Atlanta, go check it out. That show is delivering on season 3 on every front.
For sure.
And then
I think you're missing one, Robert. I think you're missing Sonic the Hedgehog 2.
Yes. Let me end this on Sonic the Hedgehog 2 real fast. It's so much better than the first one. Man, they delivered. I think what this does, it just blows my mind because I'm like, man, you guys. There's a moment at the beginning of Sonic the Hedgehog 2 where I was like, yo, they're getting rid of all the human characters and we're just focusing on Sonic and the gang and Jim Carrey. I was like, that's awesome. This is the perfect way to get rid of them. They tricked me because all these human characters were actually still going to be a part of the movie. And that's the one flaw with this whole thing. I think all of the characters, Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, even Dr. Eggman, Jim Carrey, they do such an awesome job by delivering on these hokey video game characters. Idris Elba did such an awesome job as Knuckles. Like, it was awesome. But this human characters just weigh it down so hard. I'm like, what are we doing here? Get rid of them. They even got to a point where there's a point in the movie. I don't care if you haven't watched the movie. This agency comes out and they're like, oh, we're the ones who are making sure that everything goes. Like, it's almost like the American agency is here. The FBI is here. And I'm like, dude, yeah, heck yeah, let's go. Because in the video games, the FBI, for some reason, was always a part of what was going on because these world life-threatening events were happening. I was like, cool, give me that. But I don't care about John, what's his name? James Marsden or any of the other people. Get rid of them. I don't care about them. And this movie is supposedly the highest grossing video game movie of all time now. So I'm hoping when Sonic 3 happens, because God knows it's going to happen, it's just the characters, Sonic and the gang. I don't want anybody else. They have proven that they can do this with just these characters. Please, the third one, no more other people. I just want them. And then maybe a random Little Yachty rap song at the end because they keep doing that. But hey, I'm here for it. So I enjoyed Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Go watch it if you like it. But first, go see 100%. Everything Everywhere all at once because you are missing out on history, is what I'm saying.
Oh God! You're hyping this up. I feel like I'm about to go run out the door right now to watch it.
You got it. You better. Once I end this, you better leave. All right, Michael. Do you have anything else you want to end the show
on? Just one question, Robert.
Yes.
Turbo Kid. What do we think?
I haven't watched it yet because I'm wanting. Okay. I keep waiting to watch it the day before we go on because I want to be fresh on it. So I haven't seen it yet.
For sure.
That's the next.
It's all good.
By the way, everyone know we've been reviewing movies. One movie particularly. The last one was I don't remember. Oh, Blade Runner. We did Blade Runner.
Yes.
The next one was
Yes.
supposed to be Turbo Kid. Obviously, we have not done a show in a while. So
Ages,
the next
basically.
one will be Turbo Kid, and then we will continue on with other reviewings of other movies that we had within our list. So
For sure.
we'll go from there. Michael,
Awesome,
it was
man.
great talking with you all things movies. It's always great talking to you about
A
movies.
pleasure as always, sir. Pleasure
And
as always.
I know we pressed play, but next time we will rewind and talk about
Classic.
Turbo Kid on the next episode. But until next time, guys, thank you for joining us on the Press Play podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, press the like button and subscribe. Leave a comment down below. What are your thoughts on all these movies and TV shows that we were talking about? What are your thoughts on the Oscars? Do you agree with us on our thoughts on the Oscars? Let us know. If you're listening on a podcast service of your choice and you can rate the podcast, please rate it. That would be of much help so that way people can find our podcast much, much easier. And then share this with all your friends on social media. You can find us at Ambitious Casual. And our social media handles will be in the description of the show. And until next time, peace out.